The stars above the colony world of Ariston shone brighter than usual that night. Families sat outside their homes, children pointed at the constellations, and lovers whispered promises under the silver moons. Life was calm. Life was safe, or so they thought. Far beyond their skies, hidden in the endless darkness, an armada of alien warships was already watching. The fleet was massive, thousands of ships, each one designed for destruction. Inside those ships, alien commanders smiled with cold satisfaction. They had waited for this moment. To them, humanity had grown too bold, too confident, too dangerous. Tonight, they would remind humans of their place. The attack began without warning. First came the sound, deep and rumbling, like the sky itself tearing apart. Then came the light. Great beams of fire stabbed through the clouds, raining down upon Ariston's cities. Towers melted in seconds, streets cracked open, and flames swallowed entire districts. What had been laughter a moment ago turned into screams. Panic spread. Parents grabbed their children and ran through the burning streets. Soldiers tried to fight back, but their weapons were nothing compared to the alien firepower. Every resistance was crushed within minutes. High above, the alien fleet formed a perfect circle around the planet, cutting off every chance of escape. No message left the system. No signal reached Earth. The people of Ariston were trapped inside their own nightmare. The aliens were proud of their cruelty. To them, this was not just war, it was a performance. Their commanders gave orders to prolong the suffering. They wanted humans to feel hopeless. They wanted humanity to bow before them in fear. But humanity has never bowed. Even in the ruins, people resisted. A group of survivors gathered inside a broken shelter, smoke filling their lungs, fear in their eyes. Yet one voice rose above the fear. An old miner, his face blackened by dust, whispered, "They think we are weak, but they have woken something far stronger." His words traveled like sparks, igniting a fire inside every heart that heard him. Across the burning colony, soldiers who had lost their weapons picked up rocks, knives, and even broken steel to keep fighting. They knew they could not win this battle, but they also knew this was not the end. Commander Hale, leader of Ariston's defense, stood on a shattered wall as alien troops marched through the streets. His uniform was torn, his arm bleeding, but his eyes were sharp with fury. Speaking into a damaged communicator, he recorded one last message. If this is what they wanted, then this is what they will get. We will not surrender. We will not forgive. And we will not forget. That single message, carried on fragments of signal, managed to escape the alien blockade. It reached out into the void, broken, scattered, but it carried enough meaning. Other human colonies picked up pieces of it. Earth heard it. And in every listening post, one thought echoed: humanity has been attacked. Humanity must answer. But the aliens were blind to this. They celebrated on Ariston, walking proudly through the ruins. Their soldiers tore down human flags and planted their own, marking the land as conquered. Their commanders mocked humanity in their transmissions. Look at your weakness. Look at your end. This is only the beginning. They did not understand the kind of enemy they had just created. Because humans are not like other races. When humans lose, they rise again. When humans bleed, they learn to strike harder. And when humans are pushed to the edge, they do not fall. They fight with a fury that even the stars fear. In hidden shipyards far from Ariston, engineers worked in silence. In underground bunkers, pilots trained without rest. In command centers buried deep beneath Earth, leaders looked at the message from Ariston and made a choice. Humanity would not only fight back. Humanity would erase the enemy from existence. Meanwhile, back on Ariston, the fires raged through the night. The colony was dying, but the spirit of its people was not. Mothers comforted their children, promising them revenge. Wounded soldiers swore that their sacrifice would not be wasted. And in the silence between explosions, the survivors whispered a vow. They wanted war. We will give them something worse. Far above, the alien fleet tightened its grip, certain of its victory. The commanders smiled, believing they had broken humanity's spirit in a single night. They could not hear the storm that was already building. They could not see the fleets being forged in secret. They could not imagine the fire that was about to consume them. The first strike was theirs. But the last strike would belong to humanity. The ashes of Ariston still floated in space when the whispers began. Across human colonies, across distant outposts, even in the deep tunnels of Earth itself, people spoke in low voices. First it was grief. Then it turned into fury. No one forgot the message that slipped through the blockade. A broken voice, half drowned in static, but carrying a weight heavier than any weapon. If this is what they wanted, this is what they will get. That one line moved like fire through dry fields. In a mining settlement on Titan, workers gathered in silence around an old radio. Their faces were covered with dust, but their eyes burned with rage. One of them slammed a fist on the table. Ariston was a warning. If we do nothing, every colony will burn. The others nodded. They knew. Humanity had no choice but to fight. On Earth, inside underground war rooms, leaders stared at maps filled with red markers, alien fleets, alien outposts, alien strongholds. They sat in silence for a long time. Then one general stood. They wanted war. Let them taste it. Not a battle, not a skirmish. We will give them a storm that will erase their name from the stars. But the world outside those war rooms was not silent. Streets filled with protests, not of fear, but of demand. Families who had lost loved ones screamed for justice. Soldiers who had retired put their uniforms back on. Young men and women lined up in front of recruiting stations, some barely old enough to hold a weapon. They all said the same words, "Send us. We will fight." The whispers of revenge spread wider, darker, and louder. In hidden shipyards under Europa's frozen oceans, workers built warships with hands that shook with both grief and determination. Each hammer strike was a promise. Each bolt sealed was a vow. The ships they built were not just machines, they were anger forged into steel. In the deserts of Mars, pilots trained in secret. Their eyes were sharp, their voices steady. They spoke little, but every simulation, every maneuver, carried the same thought. When the time comes, I will make them pay. But humanity was not foolish. They knew the aliens were stronger, older, with fleets that outnumbered theirs 10 to 1. That did not matter. What mattered was resolve. What mattered was that humans were willing to fight to the last breath, and to use every trick, every invention, every drop of cunning to turn weakness into strength. The aliens did not see the storm building. They were still celebrating Ariston, still drinking in their victory like wine. Their broadcasts mocked humanity. You are broken. You are finished. Kneel or be destroyed. But in the quiet corners of human space, those broadcasts only added fuel to the fire. Children who had watched their homes fall whispered to one another at night, "One day, we will strike back." Soldiers who had lost their friends wrote on the walls of their bunkers, "Remember Ariston," and in the heart of Earth, deep under mountains where no alien eye could see, the plan began to form. It started with a single meeting. Generals, admirals, scientists, and leaders gathered around a table. Their faces were pale, their eyes heavy with loss, but their voices were steady. "We cannot match them in numbers," one admiral said, "but we can outthink them. We can outfight them." Another voice added, "We have something they will never understand. We fight not for conquest, not for pride. We fight for survival." And then came the words that sealed the future. "We will not only fight, we will erase them." Utter eradication. From that day, the whispers became a promise. Every colony, every outpost, every hidden base joined in silence. They gathered weapons, built fleets, and trained armies. They moved in shadows, speaking little, but carrying the same burning thought. They wanted war. They will regret it. On Ariston, among the ruins, a few survivors still hid. They carved messages into stone and walls, leaving behind a record. "We endured, and we will return." Their words were carried secretly back to human command, where they were read aloud in hushed rooms. Soldiers listened, and many wept, but their tears turned to steel. By now, the whispers were no longer whispers. They were a roar waiting to break free. Humanity had been scarred, but scars only made them stronger. They had lost a world, but in return they had found unity. The aliens believed Ariston was a victory, but in truth it was the spark that lit the greatest fire the galaxy had ever seen. The storm was coming, and when it arrived, it would not stop until every alien world was nothing but dust drifting in the void. Space was silent, but in that silence, humanity was preparing its answer. Far from alien eyes, in the cold shadows of dead moons and under oceans that never saw light, something powerful was taking shape. Shipyards hummed quietly, building machines of war unlike any ever seen before. These ships were not built for travel or trade. They were built for vengeance. The aliens thought humanity was broken. They thought fear would chain the human spirit. But while the aliens drank in their victory, humans worked in silence. Engineers, scientists, and workers labored without rest. Each rivet they hammered, each engine they tested, carried the weight of Ariston's ashes. The fleet grew in secret. These ships were not like the ones destroyed at Ariston. They were faster, stronger, sharper. Every lesson from the past was carved into their design. Humans studied the weapons the aliens had used and then twisted those designs into deadlier versions. Alien technology stolen from old battlefields was now fused with human creativity. The result was a new kind of warship, cold, efficient, and hungry for battle. Inside the hidden bases, pilots trained day and night. They learned not just to fly but to hunt. Simulations ran endless battles against alien fleets. Failure meant starting again, harsher and harder. They flew until their hands bled, until their eyes refused to close. They did not complain. Each of them carried a name, a face, a memory of someone lost at Ariston. That memory kept them awake, kept them sharp. They called themselves the Silent Fleet. It was not just a name, it was a promise. They would strike without warning, without mercy, and without rest until the galaxy understood the price of touching humanity. Across human space, whispers spread again, but these whispers were different. The Silent Fleet is ready. Soon, they will rise. No one said too much, but everyone knew. A storm was forming in the dark, and it would break with thunder. Meanwhile, the aliens celebrated still. They paraded through conquered human colonies, waving banners and broadcasting their victory. Their leaders spoke with arrogance. Humanity is finished. They cannot resist us. Their fleets patrolled lazily, their guards lowered. They had no idea what waited in the shadows. The Silent Fleet's first test came in the outer rim. A small alien patrol ship wandered too close to a dead moon. They thought it was empty, but out of the black, a shape appeared, sleek, silent, and armed. Before the aliens could even raise an alarm, their ship exploded into fragments, swallowed by fire. No human broadcast followed, no message of warning. The Silent Fleet vanished again into the void. The aliens dismissed it as an accident, a malfunction, a small loss. They did not see the truth. Inside the command center on Earth, leaders watched the first test with grim satisfaction. "It works," one admiral whispered. "They never even saw us coming." Another answered, "Good. Let them stay blind until it is too late." But building the fleet was not enough. Humanity needed something more, a plan. They could not simply defend. They had to strike where it would hurt most. And so the strategy was born. One by one, human scouts slipped into alien space, mapping out weak points. Fuel depots, shipyards, command stations. Every target was marked, every route memorized. When the time came, the Silent Fleet would not fight a battle. They would burn an empire. In the shipyards, as the last battleships came online, workers gathered to watch them rise. Enormous steel monsters lifted slowly into space, their hulls glowing under distant suns. The workers did not cheer loudly. They only stood in silence, some with tears in their eyes. To them, these ships were more than machines, they were justice given form. The pilots named their ships after lost cities and fallen families. One ship was called Ariston's Revenge. Another was called Ashes of Silence. Each name was a scar carried into battle. As the fleet assembled in the void, its size became clear. Hundreds of ships, from small hunters to massive carriers, now floated together. Their engines were dark. Their weapons were quiet. From a distance, they looked like shadows drifting across the stars. But within those shadows, fire waited. A pilot stood on the bridge of her fighter, staring at the fleet through the glass. Her voice was calm, but her hands trembled with emotion. "They think we are silent because we fear them," she whispered. "But silence is only the breath before the scream." The order came at last. The silent fleet was ready. No broadcast was made. No warning was given. They simply turned their ships toward alien space and vanished into the black. Far away, alien commanders laughed over their victories. They had no idea. The darkness around them was already moving. The storm had left its cradle. And when it arrived, the galaxy would remember the name of humanity. Not as victims, not as prey, but as hunters who rose from ashes and carried silence like a blade. The silent fleet was coming. The galaxy still believed humanity was broken. The alien empire celebrated loudly, drinking to their final victory. They boasted in broadcasts that the humans would never rise again. But while they laughed, humanity's answer was already on the move. The silent fleet had left the shadows. It traveled without lights, without signals, and without mercy. Hundreds of ships glided silently through the black, hidden by technology and by determination. Their destination was chosen carefully. An alien stronghold in the Kaler system, a system believed untouchable, filled with shipyards, supply depots, and command centers. If Kaler fell, the alien empire would bleed. For days, the fleet moved unseen. Pilots whispered no words. Commanders gave no speeches. The silence was heavy, but inside every heart burned the same thought. This is for Ariston. At last, the Kaler system appeared in their view. Alien ships drifted lazily around the planet, unprepared. The aliens were confident in their dominance. Their scanners showed nothing. Their commanders felt safe. That was their mistake. From the darkness, the first human ship slipped forward. Its engines remained quiet until the last second. Then, with a sudden flare, it launched its weapons. Fire streaked across the void. The first alien command center exploded before its alarms could even sound. The aliens panicked. Sirens wailed through their fleets, but it was already too late. More human ships appeared, one after another, pouring out of the black like a tide of vengeance. Beams of light cut through alien defenses. Missiles streaked toward shipyards, ripping apart their steel frames. Supply depots burst into fire, scattering burning fragments into space. On the bridge of Ariston's Revenge, Captain Rian spoke only one sentence: "No survivors." His voice was cold, steady, and final. The silent fleet obeyed. Every shot was precise, every strike planned. Human ships moved like hunters, circling their prey. Alien fleets tried to fight back, but their formations broke under the sudden fury. They had never seen humans fight like this before. Calm, ruthless, unstoppable. An alien commander shouted across his channel. Where did they come from? How? His words cut off as his ship turned into a ball of fire. On the ground below, alien soldiers looked up at the sky in horror. The heavens burned with falling wreckage. For the first time, the Empire's soldiers felt fear. Humanity had returned, and they were no longer defending. They were destroying. The humans sent one message, broadcast across every channel of the Kaler system. A voice, heavy with rage but clear as steel, spoke. You wanted war. You have it. From this day forward, no world of yours will be safe. This is not defense. This is judgment. Then the transmission ended, and the killing continued. Hours passed, and the Kaler system was no more. Shipyards that had taken decades to build were reduced to ash. Fleets that once guarded the Empire's borders drifted as broken shells. Entire chains of supply collapsed in a single night. But the silent fleet did not stay to gloat. When the last target was destroyed, they vanished into the black again. Silent as shadows, leaving behind only ruins. Across human space, the news spread like lightning. People who had mourned now shouted with pride. We struck them. We burned their stronghold. Families raised their heads high again. Children who once whispered in fear now whispered in awe. Humanity was not finished. They were just beginning. In the alien empire, silence followed. Commanders who once mocked humanity now argued in panic. Reports flooded in of lost fleets, destroyed depots, and shattered morale. Their leaders demanded answers. How did the humans do this? How could they return so quickly? No one had an answer. Fear began to spread. Because the aliens realized something dangerous, humans did not announce war. They did not negotiate. They did not threaten. They simply struck, and then vanished, waiting for the next target. The enemy could no longer predict them, and in war, unpredictability was death. Meanwhile, in the heart of Earth, the leaders of humanity stood around the war table. They did not cheer. They did not celebrate. They only nodded as the reports came in. Kaler is gone, one officer said. What is the next target? The commander at the head of the table looked at the map of alien space. His hand hovered over dozens of red markers. Then he tapped one. Here. We bleed them again. The silent fleet received its orders. Engines lit once more. The hunters returned to the dark. For the first time in history, the galaxy whispered in fear not of the aliens, but of humanity. The legends began to spread, stories of ships that appeared from nothing, of fleets that struck like ghosts, of soldiers who fought with fire in their hearts. The first retaliation was over, but it was only the beginning. The destruction of Kaler sent shockwaves through the galaxy. What had once been a proud alien stronghold was now only burning debris drifting in space. News of the attack spread faster than light itself. To the humans, it was justice. To the aliens, it was terror. The silent fleet did not rest. They did not return home to celebrate. Instead, they moved like predators through the void, choosing their next prey. Every alien world, every fleet, every depot marked on their maps became a target. Humanity had no intention of fighting a slow war. They wanted something greater, total eradication. In hidden command centers on Earth, orders were sent with sharp precision. Strike here. Leave nothing. Move on. There were no long speeches. There were no promises. Only simple commands carried across the stars. Humanity had become a machine of war, each part working perfectly with the next. And the strikes began. In the Vanar system, alien warships floated proudly above their capital moon. They never saw the humans coming. A sudden flash of fire lit the dark, and in minutes, their fleets were nothing but glowing wreckage. Human ships slipped away before the aliens could even count their dead. In the Orith Belt, supply convoys traveled in lines stretching across light years. They carried food, weapons, and fuel to the alien armies. They too vanished in fire when human hunters fell upon them. Whole convoys disappeared without a trace. The Empire's armies began to starve. And in the icy world of Drex, an alien shipyard buzzed with construction. Thousands of workers built warships to replace those lost at Kaler. Then the silent fleet arrived. The shipyard turned into a graveyard of twisted steel. Survivors whispered later that they had seen shadows moving in the fire. Shadows shaped like human warships, leaving nothing alive. The galaxy began to change. Where once alien banners hung proudly, now silence ruled. Their people spoke in whispers of the humans, the ghosts of vengeance, the storm that came without warning. Soldiers who had once laughed at humanity now shook when they heard the word Earth. But for humanity, this was not only war. It was a message. On every channel they seized, they repeated the same broadcast. We are humanity. You attacked our children, our homes, our future. Now we come for yours. We will not stop. We will not forgive. We will not forget. Each word was like a knife in the Empire's chest. The alien rulers met in hidden chambers. Their voices shook as they argued. Some demanded more fleets, some begged for peace, some even suggested retreat. But no matter what they said, the truth was the same: humanity was winning. Not through numbers, not through size, but through fury, cunning, and a will no empire could match. Meanwhile, in human colonies, the mood had changed completely. Where once there had been sorrow, now there was fire. Families that had mourned their dead now held their heads high, saying, "We are striking back." Children played in the streets, pretending to be pilots of the silent fleet, shouting as they knocked down toy alien ships. Songs were written, stories told, legends already forming of the battles being fought in the black. Yet the war was not without cost. Human ships were lost. Brave pilots never returned. Entire crews vanished into the silence of space. But for every human ship that fell, 10 alien ships were destroyed. For every life lost, 100 enemies were taken down. And each loss only hardened humanity's resolve. In the depths of alien space, panic spread. Some worlds began to fortify, building defenses, hiding in fear. Others begged their rulers for protection. But the humans always struck where no one expected. They moved like fire across dry grass, unpredictable, unstoppable. The galaxy now spoke of them in fear. The humans do not fight battles. They burn worlds. In one final strike of this campaign, the Silent Fleet targeted an alien fortress world, a planet ringed with defenses, armed with fleets beyond number. It was believed to be impenetrable. But humanity was no longer bound by belief. The battle began with silence. Human ships drifted close, hidden by shadows. Then, at the chosen second, the silence ended. Fire erupted from every side. Defenses crumbled. Fleets scattered. Command towers fell. Hours later, the fortress world was nothing but dust. The Empire shook. Their power was breaking. Their fear was growing. And yet humanity did not stop. The Silent Fleet vanished again, preparing for the next attack. Across the stars, alien commanders stared at the sky, wondering where the humans would strike next. For the first time, the galaxy realized something terrifying. This was no longer a war of defense. This was no longer retaliation. This was total war. And humanity would not stop until their enemies were nothing but memories. The galaxy trembled. World after world had fallen. Shipyards once proud now drifted as broken metal. Convoys had vanished, fortresses reduced to dust. The alien empire, once so confident, now bled with every passing day. And still, humanity pressed forward. The rulers of the empire could not ignore it anymore. Their fleets were shattered, their people whispering in fear, their borders burning. If they did not act now, they would lose everything. And so they made a choice, one final battle, one last stand. They gathered everything. From every corner of their empire, they called their fleets. Battleships older than memory, carriers vast as cities, swarms of smaller hunters. Every ship that could move was summoned. Their warlords promised their people, here, humanity will be crushed. Here, their silent fleet will finally fall. The chosen battlefield was the Nerion Expanse, a dead region of space filled with shattered moons and drifting asteroids. To the aliens, it was perfect. Narrow passages, hidden traps, and a place where their overwhelming numbers could surround the humans. They waited, tens of thousands of ships forming a wall of firepower. The sky itself glowed with the lights of their engines. It was the greatest armada the galaxy had ever seen. But the Silent Fleet was not afraid. From the black they came, hundreds of human ships sliding into view. Against the alien armada, they looked small, fragile, hopelessly outnumbered. Yet not a single human voice trembled. Not a single hand shook. Each pilot, each captain, carried a memory of Ariston, of burning worlds, of families lost. They were not here to survive. They were here to finish this war. The silence before battle was heavy. For a moment, all of space seemed to hold its breath. Then, with a single command, the void exploded into chaos. Alien fleets fired first. Beams of light brighter than suns lanced across the dark. Missiles streaked in storms. The Silent Fleet dove between the attacks, weaving through asteroid fields, vanishing into shadows. Where the aliens fought with raw power, the humans fought with precision. Each strike was chosen, each shot deadly. A single human destroyer darted through the battlefield, weaving between giants, and placed its fire into the weak point of an alien carrier. The carrier erupted, its wreckage crushing its own escorts. Across the field, human bombers slipped beneath enemy formations, tearing holes into their shields. Every explosion was a wound the Empire could not heal. Still, the alien numbers were overwhelming. Ships surrounded the silent fleet, pressing them from every side. A human cruiser fell, its final message a calm voice. "Tell them we fought." The crew died, but not in vain. Their sacrifice opened a gap for others to strike deeper. The battle raged for hours. The Nerion expanse turned into a furnace. Broken moons shattered further under the fire, asteroids spun out of orbit, and the stars themselves seemed dim against the burning fleets. On the bridge of Ariston's Revenge, Captain Rian stood firm. His ship was battered, his crew exhausted, but his eyes were cold steel. "Push forward," he ordered. "Do not stop. Break their heart." And so they did. The silent fleet began to carve through the enemy lines. Human ships fought like wolves, striking in packs, tearing down ships far larger than themselves. For every human ship that fell, 5 alien ships were destroyed. The Empire's advantage in numbers was fading with every passing minute. Still, the aliens fought with desperation. Their commanders screamed orders, demanding their fleets hold. They could not imagine losing. They could not accept it. But acceptance did not matter. Reality was already tearing them apart. Finally, the moment came. At the center of the battlefield stood the alien flagship, a fortress ship larger than mountains, surrounded by layers of escorts. It was the symbol of their empire, the core of their command. If it fell, their entire armada would shatter. The silent fleet focused everything. Fighters swarmed its defenses, bombers pierced its shields, warships poured their fire into its hull. The alien flagship fought back with fury, burning human ships in its rage. But humanity did not retreat. Not this time. With one final strike, Ariston's Revenge hurled its weapons into the heart of the fortress ship. For a moment, the galaxy seemed to pause. Then the flagship erupted in a storm of fire that shook the battlefield. Silence followed. The alien fleets, seeing their heart destroyed, broke apart. Some fled into the void. Others surrendered. Many simply shut down, their crews too broken to fight. The greatest armada the galaxy had ever seen was gone. The last stand of the alien empire had ended, not with humanity crushed, but with humanity standing victorious, surrounded by the wreckage of their enemies. In that silence, every human ship carried the same thought. This is not just victory. This is justice. And somewhere, far across the stars, the survivors of Ariston finally slept knowing their cries had been answered. The battle in the Nerion expanse was supposed to end humanity. Instead, it ended the Empire. The alien flagship was gone. Their fleets shattered, their commanders dead or fleeing into the dark. For a moment, silence filled the stars. A silence heavy with the weight of history. But humanity did not stop. The silent fleet had no mercy left to give. Every scar from Ariston, every scream from burning colonies, every tear shed in the shadows now guided their hands. They had fought for survival. Now they fought for justice. No, more than justice. They fought for eradication. Reports came in from across the battlefield. Alien ships surrendered by the thousands. Some dropped their weapons, broadcasting pleas for mercy. Others fled into the void, abandoning their worlds. But humanity had made a choice long ago. The time for mercy had ended the night Ariston burned. Earth's high command gave the order, and the words were simple. No empire remains. End them. The silent fleet spread out like a storm. One group turned toward the alien core worlds. Another swept through border systems. Special strike teams hunted down survivors, tracking them through asteroid belts, frozen moons, and hidden bases. Nowhere was safe. World by world, the alien empire fell. On the planet Draxier, alien leaders gathered in their halls, believing their defenses strong. Human ships rained fire from the skies until the great towers turned to ash. Not one banner of the empire remained standing. On the ocean world of Theres, alien admirals tried to regroup their fleets. They believed the water would protect their hidden bases. The silent fleet answered with weapons that boiled the oceans, burning everything beneath the waves. Survivors floated among the wreckage, whispering of the humans who came like demons in the storm. In the city world of Valor, billions once marched proudly under the Empire's flag. They looked up one day to see the sky filled with fire. Human warships blackened their heavens, dropping destruction in waves. When the dust cleared, Valor was nothing but ruins. The galaxy began to understand. Humanity was not only fighting battles, they were erasing an empire from existence. Every message, every broadcast from the silent fleet carried the same chilling promise. This is not revenge. This is your end. You wanted war. We gave you eradication. And the galaxy listened. Other species, watching from afar, fell into silence. Many had feared the alien empire, bowing to its power. Now they watched its armies burn, its fleets collapse, its proud rulers reduced to dust. They had once thought humans were weak, fragile, short-lived. But now they saw the truth. Humanity was something else entirely. They were relentless. They were merciless. They were unstoppable. Weeks turned into months. Every alien system that had once dared to cheer Ariston's fall now trembled under human fire. Their leaders hid, their soldiers deserted, their people begged for peace. But peace never came. Humanity's answer was fire, and it would not be silenced until nothing was left. At last, the final world of the Empire stood alone. Its defenses were vast, its cities endless, its rulers desperate. They promised surrender, offered tribute, begged for mercy. But the silent fleet only advanced. Captain Rian stood on the bridge of Ariston's revenge. His ship was scarred, his crew exhausted, but his voice was firm. No mercy, he said. Remember Ariston. Remember every life they burned. This ends today. The order was given. The skies above the last world turned red. Human ships unleashed everything. Towers fell, oceans boiled, mountains shattered. The alien empire, once ruler of half the galaxy, died in fire. When the smoke cleared, silence returned to the stars. A silence different from before. This was not the silence of fear, not the silence of waiting. This was the silence of an ending. The alien empire was gone, utterly erased. Human ships drifted among the ruins, their crews staring at what they had done. Some wept, some cheered. Most simply sat in silence, knowing they had carried the weight of justice through fire and blood. They had not only survived, they had proved a truth that would echo forever. Across the galaxy, whispers began. Not of the Empire, not of their cruelty, but of humanity. They fought back. They rose from ashes. They do not forgive. They do not forget. And above all, do not provoke them. Do not test them. Humanity is the storm. On Earth, families gathered under open skies, looking up at the stars with new pride. Children pointed and said, "That is ours now. No one will take it from us." Survivors of Ariston finally spoke the words they had carried for so long. We are avenged. The galaxy would never again see humanity as weak, fragile, or broken. They were now something far greater, warriors who turned tragedy into fury, who carried silence like a blade, and who brought utter eradication to those who sought their destruction. And in that silence after war, a new legend was born. The legend of humanity.